on Arirang News. North Korea's provocations continue as it fired 2 ballistic missiles early Monday morning. One of the launches appears to have been a failure, landing inside its own territory. South Korea will create a new ministry at deputy prime minister level to tackle the demographic crisis. It is expected to act as a control tower, drawing up mid- and long-term population strategies. Korea's exports posted on-year growth for the 9th straight month in June on the back of robust chip demands. Good evening. Welcome to our 9 p.m. edition of Arirang News. I'm Kim Bo-kyung. We start with the latest from North Korea. Pyongyang launched yet more missiles early this morning, just a day after the regime denounced South Korea's inaugural multi-domain military exercises with the U.S. and Japan. One of the 2 missiles fired today, however, appears to have been a failure. Our defense correspondent Choi Min-jung reports.
North Korea launched 2 ballistic missiles toward waters off its east coast early on Monday. The South's Joint Chiefs of Staff said they were both fired from the Changyeon area of Hwanghae-namdo province, one launched at around 5:05 a.m. and the next at 10 minutes later. The first one, presumed to be a short-range ballistic missile, flew around 600 kilometers before landing in the sea. This was followed by a second missile that only traveled around 120 kilometers. The military said the launch appears to have been unsuccessful and said the debris could have landed near the Pyongyang area.
There is a possibility that the second missile launched by North Korea may have flown abnormally during the early stages of flight. If the missile exploded in flight, the debris could have landed inside North Korean territory.
The JCS assumes that both missiles could be the Hwasong-11 short-range ballistic missiles, which were also test-launched from the Changyeon area last year. But it has not completely ruled out the possibility of a test launch for a new type of missile. The military and experts say that the recent launches came in retaliation against the recent Freedom Edge exercise between Seoul, Washington, and Tokyo.
Well, North Korea was clearly trying to offset the Freedom Edge exercise. They don't want their people to be thinking that Kim doesn't have the power to do something in response to an outside exercise.
The regime recently vowed to take overwhelming countermeasures in response to the trilateral multi-domain military exercise held last week. It added that such drills show the relationship between the 3 nations has developed into the Asian version of NATO. But South Korea's defense ministry dismissed Pyongyang's criticism, saying the exercise was held to deter and respond to North Korea's nuclear and missile programs. Monday's missile launches also come less than a week after the North claimed to have successfully tested a missile carrying multiple warheads, which the South and the U.S. assessed was a failure. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
Satellite photos of North Korea's Rajin port show signs of possible arms trading between North Korea and Russia. According to Voice of America, images from Saturday taken by Planet Labs show a large 150-meter-long vessel docked in the port. The report also notes that what appears to be a 145-meter line of containers can be seen in front of the vessel. This is the first time such a vessel has been spotted there since the North Korea-Russia summit. In October, the U.S. specified this port as being a point for weapons transportation between the North and Russia. Amid chronic population concern in the country, the government has decided to launch a population control tower at a deputy prime minister level to take charge of low birth rates and aging population. Our Shin Ha-young explains. Following high-level meetings with the ruling party, the government announced plans on Monday morning to create a new ministry called the Ministry of Population Strategy Planning, focused on tackling the country's falling birth rate. This comes as President Yoon Suk-yeol declared a national emergency last month as the number of newborns in the country continues to fall and vowed to make every effort to handle the issue. The birth rate dropped to 0.72 in 2023, the lowest in the world. The new ministry will be in charge of creating strategies not only to boost the birth rate, but also for overpopulation issues.
The ministry has been named the Ministry of Population Strategy Planning to cover all aspects of population policy, including low birth rates, an aging society, workforce and immigration.
The ministry will be in charge of formulating policies regarding the low birth rate and related mid to long-term population strategies, taking over the responsibilities currently held by the Health and Finance ministries. Once established, it will have the authority to review budgets and consult with other ministries on related projects. The ministry will also enhance public awareness through campaigns on population issues and conduct research and analysis on demographic data. The head of the ministry will also serve as the country's Deputy Prime Minister for Social Affairs, currently served by the Education Minister. The government plans to propose a revised Government Organization Act within July to establish the ministry. It expects the new ministry to begin operations about 3 months after the revision bill is passed, following necessary procedures such as personnel recruitment, budget allocation, and a parliamentary confirmation hearing for the minister. The Presidential Committee on Aging Society and Population Policy will also be transferred to the new ministry under a new name, the Committee on Population Crisis Response. 신하영, Arirang News. Also, staying with government reorganization, President Yoon Suk-yeol is planning to establish a new role of Political Affairs Minister to work and communicate better with the opposition-led National Assembly. The announcement came as Yoon's Chief of Staff, Chung Jin-seok, made his remarks during a Parliamentary Steering Committee meeting. Chung added that the presidential office will listen closely to lawmakers while offering sufficient explanations to them. The position was scrapped during former President Park Geun-hye's administration, but it is not an unfamiliar role in the nation's political scene. Korea's exports continue to rally in June, increasing over 5%, bolstered by record-high semiconductor shipments. An Sung-jin has the latest.
Amid robust performance in the semiconductor sector, South Korea is continuing to see on-year growth for exports. According to the Trade Ministry on Monday, exports for June increased by 5.1% compared to the year before, reaching $57 billion. That's the 9th straight month for on-year growth to be recorded. It's largely attributed to a strong performance by the chip industry, with the country's largest export item seeing a record high figure of $13.4 billion, up more than 50% on-year. Higher memory chip prices and demand from server-centered industries pulled up the growth.
The chip sector's performance for the first half of the year saw an increase of almost 90% in memory chip exports. Prices and volume both went up.
All 4 IT products out of 15 major export items, which also includes displays and computers, saw an on-year rise. Exports of petroleum products and automobiles are also continuing to see stable performance. Outbound shipments to the United States and India reached a record high for any June, while exports to China also showed on-year growth for the 4th straight month. Exports to the ASEAN and Middle Eastern region rose as well. With strong exports, the country's trade balance stayed firmly in the positive territory, logging an $8 billion surplus compared to the year before. This is the largest trade balance since September 2020. On the back of continuing positive monthly exports, outbound shipments for the first half of 2024 also rose by nearly 10%. This led to the country's largest ever trade balance for the first of any year, totaling $23.1 billion. Robust exports of hybrid vehicles also pushed auto exports to a record high figure for the same period. The government pledged further strong export date for the second half of the year.
Exports are normally greater at the end of the year than in the first half, and for this year, in the case of semiconductors, we can forecast a strong first half and a strong second half as well. We believe our exports will be quite good.
It also said it would respond to risk factors and continuously monitor export circumstances to reduce negative external factors. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
Government officials and business representatives from South Korea and Vietnam have agreed to expand their partnerships in economic areas, including supply chains. Marking Vietnamese Prime Minister Pham Minh Chin's visit to Seoul, the Korea Chamber of Commerce and Industry hosted a business forum on Monday to enhance economic cooperation between the two countries. South Korean Trade Minister An Deok-keun underlined the importance of boosting economic cooperation to reach a bilateral trade volume of $150 billion by 2030. As part of such efforts, the two will first try to reach a $100 billion trade volume next year. An added, he expects the expanded cooperation to include the culture content and energy sectors as well. A public institution that supports Korea's gardening industry is working to ensure that native plant species gain firmer footing or deeper rooting, if you will, here in the country. Cha Young explains.
At a horticultural farm in Sejong City, Alscholzia pyeonsanensis, chrysanthemum flowers, Picris hierarchoides are cultivated. These are native plant species commissioned by the Korea Arborda and Gardens Institute this year. The species are appropriate for creating gardens with great ornamental value. The plants grown by farms are sent to exhibitions or festivals after being delivered to the Sejong National Arboretum.
We can stably cultivate native plants by securing a market. I am getting massive help in building farming capacity.
The Korea Arborda and Gardens Institute has worked in tandem with local farms for 5 years since 2019. The institute selects native plants of high quality, improves the varieties of plants, and supplies them to horticultural farms in Sejong and Bonghwa, along with cultivation techniques. It also provides proceeds after securing a stable market for farms through contract cultivation. The plants grown by farms are on display at the exhibition hall of the Sejong National Arboretum and Baekdudaegan National Arboretum to meet consumers. This process is beneficial for horticultural farms, arboretums, and also residents.
Flower exhibitions and festivals need lots of plants, so they collaborate with local farmers who have facilities and expertise in farming plants. Farmers can make proceeds from this and people can enjoy beautiful flowers.
The Sejong National Arboretum is also creating new jobs with educational plant kits targeting vulnerable social groups such as disabled people.
I was so amazed that I could make a lotus flower garden by pouring water onto the seeds. I hope these kinds of products become more commercialized as disabled people also need to make a living.
Meanwhile, the Korea Arborda and Gardens Institute has signed contracts with 73 farms, and the industry's output value hit more than $1.4 million, as well as more than $29 million for local festivals. Cha Young, Arirang News.
Some professors at Korea University Medical School announced they will go on an indefinite strike beginning July 12th. However, they and non-striking professors will continue to treat emergency admissions and patients in intensive care units. On Monday, its emergency committee urged that the government take responsibility for the current medical dispute and fully withdraw its expansion of next year's medical school admission quota. Previously, professors at Severance Hospital began an indefinite strike on June 27th, while from Thursday, professors at Seoul and Hospital are scheduled to go on a week-long strike. Bukchon Hanok Village in Seoul's Jongno-gu district, one of South Korea's heavily visited tourist areas, is the first to be designated as what's being called a special management area. The initiative, announced on Monday, enables restrictions to be implemented for visiting times and traffic to protect the natural environment and also the residents living in the area. Within color-coded zones where red signifies the highest level of inconvenience for residents, visiting hours will be restricted to between 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. From October, there will be a trial period with full implementation planned for March next year. Summer may be the right time to plan traveling for a vacation, and these days more countries in the Asia-Pacific region are promoting sustainable tourism in the form of eco-friendly villages. Our Lee Soo-jin takes a closer look at some of the examples.
It's that time of the year when the urge to travel goes up with the temperature, but now more travelers are looking for ways to help the planet when they go on vacation. And that's why leaders in the political world and tourism sector met in Cebu on Friday to discuss how to meet the demand for sustainable tourism at the 36th joint meeting of the UN Tourism Commission for East Asia and the Pacific.
We must go green in the transformation of our tourism products. I am of the belief that the greener you are, the better the tourism experience will be.
And one way countries in the Asia-Pacific region offer sustainable tourism is through eco-friendly villages.
One such eco-friendly village here in the Philippines is Boho, which is named one of UN Tourism's best tourism villages in 2021 for its commitment to sustainability and promoting local communities.
Tourists can travel down the Boho River, which spans 1.4 kilometers, in eco-friendly wooden boats where they're surrounded by mangrove trees and sounds of more than 60 bird species. And these sustainable practices have also reached the local population, as the traditional dance performances for those who visit Boho have created jobs. At another eco-friendly village where the Boho River enters the ocean, locals weave fiber ropes from the husks of coconuts to create biodegradable tents. There are also cooking demonstrations, keeping the village's traditions alive through food. Tours of eco-friendly villages are also available at 2 villages on South Korea's Jeju Island that were recognized as best tourism villages last year. Seoul Village keeps its local traditions alive by allowing tourists to experience the Haenyeo culture. And this also provides a chance for the female divers to make extra income. Dongbek Village promotes local products made with camellias, from which the village got its name, to produce oil that is used to create various local dishes. And these tour options have wide-reaching positive effects.
It is a huge contributor to the balance of payments, to income, and we see that through many programs that we have ourselves, like Tourism for Rural Development, where we have a lot of villages in Korea as well.
She added that to keep the momentum of eco-friendly bilateral tourism going, countries will need to work together to ease visa regulations and increase air capacity. 이수진, Arirang News, Cebu.
Korea is actively seeking to create modern public spaces within its traditional Hanok architecture. Moon Hae-ryun shows us how.
Wooden beams and distinctive roof tiles are some features of this library that are characteristic of a traditional Korean Hanok building. This small community library nestled in the middle of Seoul is part of the government's efforts to conserve the Hanok tradition by letting buildings do what they do best, being lived in and used by many. A key element of Hanok architecture is harmonizing with the natural surroundings. Here the doors are aligned to provide a direct open window from one side to the other. But libraries are built to protect books from the outdoors, not to become one with it. That's why this particular Hanok building only serves as the library's reading room, while the building holding all the books is located underground in a more modern setting. After years of grappling with a strict standard to define Hanok architecture, the Infrastructure Ministry has now decided to focus on a different angle for conserving traditions, adapting traditions to fit uses and experiences in the present day.
We thought it was important to integrate this building into modern everyday life instead of just maintaining this traditional structure, which is why this building has modern lifestyle building aspects such as elevators.
A more famous example of a traditional Hanok-style building adapted for contemporary use is Cheongwade, or the Blue House, which was formerly used as the presidential office and residence. Since its opening to the public in 2022 following President Yoon Suk-yeol's relocation, more than 5.8 million visitors have come to visit the compound. The main building boasts the traditional roof tiles in blue, which gives it its name, with the underside patterns also in the same hue, a unique feature as these patterns typically contain bright colors such as red. The interior reflects much of the authentic style, with wooden beams for the ceiling and window frames and breathable hanji, traditional Korean paper, on the walls, with the surrounding gardens called Nokjiwon home to more than 120 variety of trees, setting the lateral landscape where Hanok buildings are best suited. Repurposing old buildings into new means that they are able to maintain the history of the original, which is important as places often reflect lifestyles of the people who use them. This whole museum of craft art was once a royal palace and then a high school for girls. Royalty, students, and now young children have walked these grounds.
The architects tried to portray how memories can also be built like a building. So the building that was originally going to be demolished has been kept, with the observation platform still intact.
In the ever-changing cityscape, conservation of traditional architecture will be more than just maintaining the physical characteristics of the building. Making it accessible and easy for the public to use will be the goal going forward. Moon Hae-ryun, Arirang News.
Over in France, the far-right National Rally Party in France made a clean sweep, reaching 33% of the national vote in the first round of parliamentary elections. The Interior Ministry said on Sunday that the far-right National Rally Party led the first round of France's elections, while the left-wing New Popular Front came in second with 28%. According to results published by the ministry on Monday, President Emmanuel Macron's Ensemble Alliance, including the Renaissance Party, suffered a huge defeat, falling to third with 20%. Turnout for the first round appeared to be 66.7%, higher than the election in 2022.
The sun was burning during the daytime today and the humidity stayed high, so it feels very hot. The temperature in Seoul soared up to over 31 degrees Celsius. Starting with Jeju Island and the southern parts of the country today, the rain will expand to the Chungcheongdo provinces overnight. Tomorrow morning, it will also rain in the Seoul metropolitan area. There will be more than 200 millimeters of heavy rain in the mountainous areas of Jeju Island and more than 150 on the southern coast until the day after tomorrow. In addition, more than 120 will fall in many places in central Seoul and other parts of the country. You'd better take your umbrella with you on your way out. Tomorrow, Daejeon and Gwangju will start off at 23 degrees. It will move up to 28 in Daejeon, Daegu, and Gyeongju. The rainy season will continue throughout this week. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world. A national emergency. That is how the president put the demographic crisis South Korea is suffering from. The government had been injecting large sums of money only to see the birth rate continue to fall, hitting its lowest level last year. To overcome the crisis, the country is to launch a new ministry specifically focusing on population-related policies. Establishing a control tower that would oversee the issue from A to Z is definitely a much-needed one. But what matters is not how the government is reorganized. It is how policies are rethought to actually meet couples' needs and to let them believe South Korea can offer a genuine childbearing environment. That is all for today. Thank you for watching.
Completely new